Okay. Hi, I'm Sierra Benti.
Hi, I'm Sean Dunnigan.
Hi, I'm Emiliano.
Hi, I'm Libby Quintana.
Hi, and I'm Grace Winters, and thank you for watching our presentation on Redding, California's risk of wildfires.
History and current community characteristics. Redding is located in Northern California, just north of Sacramento, the state capital. Redding was founded in 1872 by railroad pioneer B.B. Redding. He hoped for Redding to be the epicenter of trade and travel in Northern California. It was initially supported by the lumber industry in the 1900s that drew large amounts of people to Redding to settle the area. Redding and Shasta County were originally home to 5 indigenous tribes: Pitt River, Hat Creek, Oquanitu, Wintu, and Yana. Sacramento River supported large populations through trading and farming, both the tribal nations and the current community of Redding today. The gold rush drew many people to the area, but gold rush practices and overharvesting of forests through the lumber industry greatly degraded the environment and reduced the resources in the area. The Shasta Dam was built from 1938 to 1945. It was a long project, but it provided power to communities and still provides power to the community today. After the collapse of the lumber industry, the tourism and housing market revived the economy and brought back people into the area. In 1970, the population was recorded to be nearly 17,000 people, and it was primarily Caucasian.
Today, Redding is home to nearly 93,000 people, and 80% of them are Caucasian. Uh, Even though the lumber industry really kept the town afloat back in the 1900s, the economy is now centered primarily around the medical industry. Local colleges and trade schools are pretty popular in providing skills training to the people of Redding, and an increase in population is expected as cost of living increases elsewhere. Prior and current ecosystems. It is a temperate coniferous forest ecosystem. It has towering redwoods and oaks that are covering all the hills and valleys and mountains of the area. The foothills of the Cascades is basically where Redding is situated, and there's plentiful precipitation with moderate temperatures. There's heavy snow and low temperatures throughout the winter, and high temps in the summer months, like very high, peaking at nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit in July. And the overharvesting of lumber led to the decline of old growth trees and increased carbon dioxide emissions and soil erosion.
So adding on that, there's a decreased biodiversity and increased risk of wildfire as a result of logging. With climate change driving weather's extremes, Redding is experiencing severe wildfires at increased frequency. There's also land use practices and poor environmental management have exacerbated wildfire-prone conditions in Redding. Agencies are working to restore ecosystems surrounding Redding. As you can see, there's a wildfire here in Redding. Just a few things. Yeah, next slide. So risk. Some of the risks we have are droughts, heat waves, earthquakes, flooding, and landslides, and of course wildfires. Just with the earthquakes, because of California, there's so many. It just kind of adds on to the landslides, and then it just kind of piles up on each other. And then climate change is causing higher temperatures for extended periods across North America. As heat waves hit communities and dehydrate the ground, areas like Redding, where logging have been done, have no infrastructure to absorb precipitation in the wet months. Also, climate change is predicted to cause more precipitation to fall into shorter periods of time, leading to flooding and landslides in areas that have been in drought conditions.
So with all of that in mind, the main risk we find in Redding is wildfires, of course. The Mediterranean climate is favorable to these wildfire conditions because of how dry it becomes in the summer and warm. And on top of that, there's about 1,790 acres of unmaintained land in Redding. This causes structures and residences to be at risk of wildfires. This problem is basically in their backyard. The lower income families are the most at risk that we see here because they can't really maintain it themselves. And that picture on that previous slide was the Carr Fire of 2018. It burned 229,651 acres after just a month. So it spread really fast in the dry vegetation. And then on top of that, wildfires are expected to increase in frequency and severity in the future. So moving on towards resilience, mitigation, and adaptation. CAL FIRE monitors wildfire activity and conditions. They also perform prescribed burns to reduce wildfire fuel sources. So they'll go in and clear brush and prune trees just to clear up the overhanging vegetation. Homeowners are also encouraged to maintain their properties to prevent wildfire damage. They can remove material from outside of their home, use fire-resistant building materials, and create fuel buffers between structures and the environment. So you're supposed to have about 30 feet of space from vegetation from your house just to be fire safe. And Shasta County Fire Relief Fund supports those that are impacted by wildfires and need it.
All right, so there's something called a community wildfire protection plan, and these have sprung up all around the continental United States in the past 20 years. And basically these play a crucial role in not only engaging the community in getting momentum towards causing change, and also engaging the government by applying pressure to the urgency of these wildfire risks. But they also just help outline steps for communities and community members to properly prevent and mitigate wildfire damage. And these CWPPs are created by stakeholders in the community, as well as tribal groups, and they are essential for effective wildfire risk management. And then a couple ways to basically maintain the natural resources in Redding, California, in prevention of wildfires is vegetation management, land use regulations, and water conservation. These are the three most effective strategies that I looked at for this paper. And then the next slide. There's also another less cost efficient method, which is wildfire mitigation in architecture. And basically this is when architects and contractors use wildfire resistant materials to build properties. And although this is ideal, it's incredibly expensive, but at the end of the day, local agencies are responsible for the upkeep of their land, utilities, and the safety of their constituents. And those most at risk of wildfire damage in Redding are those who are on the outskirts and in the foothills, because the way Redding, the way its topography is designed is there's basically just a bunch of hills, and then the neighborhoods are kind of right where these hills meet. And so wildfires just blaze down the hills and into neighborhoods. And this puts a lot of families and individuals at risk. And the technology that can be used to better predict and detect wildfires is also a super critical strategy when it comes to wildfire mitigation. And residents of Redding should definitely do their part in reducing wildfire risk around their property and know what to do in the case of wildfire. And as Libby pointed out, this could include creating barriers around your property. And essentially just by working together, Redding can and already has implemented wildfire risk mitigation tactics to better adapt to the changing climate. And the importance of collective action is something that I think we've all realized should be stressed the most in Redding, just to help reinforce the idea to the community that through community-wide collaboration, Redding can continue to adapt and implement effective strategies to safeguard their community. And that's all we have for you guys. So thank you for watching.